Thank you so much for being here. I kicked my dog out. I kicked my boyfriend out. Because I've been, ever since I seen your content a few weeks ago, and I seen you actually interview Olivia Grace. I was like, I love her energy. I love her vibe. I gotta have her on here because you were doing, obviously, you're interviewing her, but I really wanted to know your perspective on things on your own spiritual journey. And so that's why I want to just have this conversation with you to see, um, basically where you've been throughout, your entire awakening, I guess. And so, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Canem is the host of the Kotodama podcast, and she holds very deep conversations about human connection, psychology, spirituality, consciousness, and pretty much everything in between. Right? Like you have like other episodes that are more about like I think I see one about like food and what they're putting in food and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a mix of everything. So I'm honored to have you on the channel. And Kotodama, it actually stands for like a belief that words carry spirit and that they shape our reality, right?
Yeah, so thank you so much. First of all, Justin, it's really, really cool to meet you.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so yes, so I am the host of the Kotodama podcast. Kotodama is a Japanese like ancient belief, as you said, that words carry spirit, that they carry entities, and that they shape our reality. And
Hmm.
when I heard that, I mean, I knew about that concept for a long time, but then one of my teachers reminded me of that concept, and I was like, this is a perfect for my podcast. And yes, I
Yeah.
am hosting a lot of different conversations with really, really cool people and guests. But my main focus, more and more, is going to be the
Hmm.
mystical, the spiritual, the parapsychological things that I just find really, really interesting. That's just what I love to talk
Yeah.
about, and my own journey. So yeah, that's more and more where the podcast is going to go.
Yeah, I love that. I think that we on my channel, and your podcast, we definitely have some like overlapping themes. My channel, I started doing like subliminals and lectures, Neville Goddard lectures and stuff like that. But more recently, I've kind of delved into more non-duality teachings. So really understanding like manifesting but from a place of I am rather than like the character doing everything. And I've had a lot of big shifts lately. So I wanted to get your perspective on some things, but before we kind of dive in a little bit deeper, can you give me like a little bit of background, like your childhood growing up, your relationship with spirituality, even like did you grow up in a religious household, or were your parents spiritual? Like what was that like?
Yeah, thank you for asking. And
Hmm.
yeah, basically, I grew up in a Muslim household. So my
Okay.
parents are liberal Muslims, very liberal. They're very free. It's not like I was restrained with religion or anything. But
Hmm.
so I was always, but since I was a child, I would say I always had very big thoughts for a child.
Hmm.
Like I remember being 8 years old and thinking that existence makes no sense because existence has to mean that there has to be non-existence at the same time. Like I had these very philosophical, I would say metaphysical thoughts since I was a
Hmm.
child. And I was always drawn to the unseen, I would say. So that
Hmm.
was my spirit has, yeah, I've always been that person. And then for a while, I did identify as Muslim. I think in my teenage years for a little while, for maybe 2 years or so. And then I moved on from that quickly because I had a spiritual awakening and I realized, no, wait, like everything's God. Like
Hmm.
the Abrahamic religions have some things right, but they have a lot of things wrong. And I actually now am actually on, from my own perspective, and I don't want to, judge anyone because honestly I don't. And I respect everybody's religion or belief system. But I came to the conclusion that a lot of these entities that people worship, specifically when it comes to worship of entities, is
Hmm.
actually I don't want to say the opposite of God or source, but it's, if any entity demands your worship, it's a real red flag, and that is not
Yeah.
actually source.
Yeah.
That's not the original source. That is more in a, what do you say in English? Derivative? Like a,
Yeah.
it's,
Like a derivation or something like that.
Yes. So sorry, English is like my third language. Like I'm stumbling sometimes.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, so I realized that we people are actually worshiping entities that are not source, and because source would never want you to worship it because it
Yeah,
is you. So
yeah.
it's a big metaphysical topic here, but I really really agree with a lot of what the Gnostics teachings are, even though I'm not too versed on that either. I really go by, I of course read a lot of books in my life about spirituality and everything, but
Mhm.
more so than that, I love the experiencing, the meditation, the healing journeys, the shadow work, the going into it, channeling entities myself as well, and channeling knowledge and playing with the timelines. Like I kind of explore all of these things, and I'm really interested in a lot of different things. But yeah, my parents were Muslim, but they never restrained me or anything. But yeah, I always felt very much drawn to metaphysics in general. And then yeah, and now I live in Japan. That's also why the podcast name is Japanese, because I love the energy here. And yeah, now I'm doing my podcast, and I love it. It's my passion.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's amazing. And I think like when you have so many different lenses and so many things that you dabble in, whether it's meditation or healing or anything like that, it kind of brings everything together. You know what I mean? Like it verifies so much. Like I know personally, listening to a lot of near death experiences, that helped me, piece together like a lot of things, Neville says, and all these other things that we are one, and we're just God having a human experience. So sometimes getting so many different perspectives really does help. Personally, I didn't grow up religious, but I like to say, I was a cultural Mormon because, my parents were also very liberal, very relaxed, but like my grandparents were more old school. So I do have memories of like going to church and, taking sacrament and believing in a God like outside of you. And again, like you said, like there's a God that needs worship, that needs, devotion and praying to. And it's kind of when you awaken spiritually, oftentimes it's undoing all of that, right? And so I definitely understand when thank you for sharing, by the way. When did you first learn about Neville Goddard?
Yeah, so I love Neville. I first stumbled across his teachings. I don't know when, actually, years ago, somewhere on YouTube, someone was talking about him. And then I think I just, because I love reading books lately, I've less and less because I am less consuming and more finding my own truth in my own heart. That's been a big journey for me right now. But
Mhm.
I love reading. Like I've read many, many books in my life. And so when I discovered him, I think I found his lectures on YouTube because a lot of them are recorded, as you know, probably.
Mhm.
And I just really resonated with his way of, honestly, I love his voice. I love his energy when he talks, and it really resonated with me. So I bought basically his books and read a lot of his books and got into the I am meditation. I do think for his time, see, he uses the Bible or the I would say that he uses the Old Testament or something, right? The New Testament, I don't know. He uses
I-
some sort of
he
testament.
uses Yeah, he uses more the New Testament, but it's generally a mix of both. But yeah.
Yeah, and so he comes from it. He analyzes Christian or Jewish, whatever you want to say, scripture,
Hmm.
and then he, you know, puts his thoughts on it, and he says, the way we understand the Bible is wrong because it's meant to be more seen in a metaphysical way, and Christ is in you, and you are God. And so I do agree with a lot of what he teaches, um
Hmm.
although I would not comment it personally from a Christian or Muslim or any background, but I do see where he was influenced and how obviously the culture at the time, I believe he was in New York in the 30s or something, so obviously
Hmm.
it's a Christian background and stuff. But yeah, I loved Neville's teachings, and it just works, right? It just
Hmm.
works. Like you can go into meditation or in the state akin to sleep, as he teaches, right before
Hmm.
sleep. I love meditating right before sleep as well because it's so
Hmm.
easy to connect to the other realm. And I like to play with it. I like to do revision. One of my favorite teachings of Neville is revision 100,000%.
Hmm.
I think he even says that, right? He's like, if you take anything from my teachings, like take revision.
Revision
And
is
I
it.
100%
Hmm.
agree because it's the most powerful one. It's to change the past for everyone who doesn't know, to revise and change the past that you have lived. And I believe Neville has done that every day in his, from what I understand. I don't do that every day, but I do it consistently throughout my life, and it works. I mean, people change, relationships change, realities change. Nothing really makes, I always say nothing makes sense anyways. We're having a dreamlike reality, a dreamlike experience. So why not play with it, right? Like try it out. So it's
Hmm.
not going to hurt you to try anything out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, our human minds too. Like I know for me, I wanted to understand everything, how reality worked. And sometimes when you go down that rabbit hole, like you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot because it's like your human mind can't really comprehend reality in general. You know what I mean? Like you said, it's a dreamlike experience where even if you don't believe in manifestation, like we're on a rock floating, in space. So it's like, how do you wrap your head around it? And but there, it's undeniable that it works. You know what I mean? Like there have been so many people's testimonies, but even whenever you first get into it, I totally understand like wanting to figure everything out, especially revision, because it's such a trippy concept when you've been told that there's a past and there's a present and there's a future, and then you start to realize, okay, none of that really exists except for the present, right? And so I know for me, revision was like, I heard Olivia talk about it too, where it's like, okay, I can get on board with the whole manifestation thing and so-called, like influencing your future, but the past is set in stone. Like, how do you really do that? So I think it's so cool that you love revision, because honestly, I've been my spiritual awakening happened about 10 years ago. But I was more for a long time, like I stayed away from Neville. Like I would hear his lectures on YouTube, but having so much religious trauma, especially being gay and growing up, you know, with being told that it's a sin and everything. I just had a yucky feeling about the Bible, and I always had. But I feel like I had to go through understanding other concepts to really get to that point where I could easily digest what he was saying and apply it to my life. So that's amazing. What point did honestly, I wanted to ask you this though. Like, at what point did you feel called to start sharing your perspective on consciousness and spirituality through your channel? Like, when did you get that idea? Like, hey, I should actually start a podcast and start speaking about these things to people.
Yeah, I will answer that question. But before that, I just want to say I'm sorry for what you went through with the religious trauma. I think religious trauma, specifically as a gay person, I mean, I have many gay friends close to me.
Hmm.
And actually, my closest people are gay. I don't know why, but
Yeah, we're the best.
yeah. And so religious trauma is so real, and it
Hmm.
operates through fear. And for me, that's the biggest red flag. Again, we are
Hmm.
worshiping an entity that controls us through fear. Guys, that's not God. I mean, sorry for anyone who needs to hear this, but like, God will never make you do anything, right? Unconditional love means absolute free will. If you understand the absolute of free will, you will understand that there is no control whatsoever. And so
Hmm.
it hurts me when I hear my gay friends as well talk about the religious trauma that they went through, and just still freeing yourself from that belief that you did something wrong is really harmful. And it's the opposite of love, and it's the opposite of God, because source is love. So I just really feel that deeply. And I'm not gay, but I also have religious trauma in some ways, right? I mean, not as intensely, I would say, but just the limiting beliefs and the, if you do this, this is wrong. And if you do this, you will be judged. Like that stuff, some of that stuff, I'm still dismantling today. And
Hmm.
so I'm really wary of that. And I really feel the pain there. And I think it's incredibly harmful to our spiritual selves. And I'm always thinking, okay, when I have children, I will never do that, because
Hmm.
it's so harmful. So whenever I can validate someone's experience, like now, I will validate it. But yeah, so back to your question, I just had to get that out of the way.
Thank you.
Back to your question, yeah, about yeah, so I always wanted a podcast for a long, long time. Joe Rogan is one of my favorite podcasters out there. I know people, oh my God, are going to get triggered when I say this. I love Joe Rogan. I think he's a very sensitive soul. I love the way he still stays himself when he does interviews. I think he's very empathetic, very open minded. And at the same time, I don't agree with everything that Joe Rogan says or does, as nobody should. You should always do your own, have your own discernment. But I love Joe Rogan. He's a big inspiration in my life. And so when I used to watch his podcasts for a long time and always was like, oh my God, this is me. Like I could not me in terms of like I'm Joe Rogan, I'm not, but like this is me in the sense of I love talking to really cool people. And I always found myself like, why didn't I record this right now? Like this was an incredible conversation. And just like right now, right? I'm just so glad that we're recording this because I believe people have to hear this stuff, this information, especially now in the great awakening that's happening. People are waking up from the matrix or whatever you want to call it, right? So I finally had the courage to do so. I recently started like 5 months ago. And so my channel is still growing, but I already feel incredibly fulfilled and so grateful for this whole journey. And it always connects me to really cool people like such as yourself. So yeah, I love that so much. I love YouTube. Like YouTube is my favorite, personally, my favorite social media platform as well when I'm consuming. So it's just really cool to not just scroll through the short content, but like have still a platform out there. I believe YouTube is the only one now that just still focuses on long form content, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah, I totally relate to that. Especially, it makes sense, like me being, a content creator now, because I had my own YouTube channel when I was like 8 years old, like, singing, doing all these things. And I laugh at myself now and I'm like, oh God, like I really wish I could go back and remember the password and delete everything. But it makes sense now, like looking, um, in the perspective I have today of I'm doing this to help people. I'm doing this to elevate, collective consciousness and humanity, and it's out of love, right? Like I truly believe the greatest expression of I am is love, right? And we should create out of that love. And so even just having meaningful conversations like we are now, like we don't know who's going to see it, but it might impact someone and it might completely change their life. And they might be doubting, does this whole manifestation shit even work? And they they might go out on a limb and actually try it, and they see that it does work. You know what I mean? I cuss. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if you're comfortable or uncomfortable with
No,
that,
yeah, of
but
course. I'm not American
yeah.
either, so I don't care about cursing. I just try not to on
All
YouTube
right.
because it flags stuff. So I just try
Yeah,
to avoid
okay.
it. But in my personal life, I do not. I'm not PC at all. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's so cool though what you touched on too, because it's still mind blowing to me that people watch my content and then reach out to me. Whether it's comments or private messages or people like such as yourself, who I believe you first saw my Olivia video, right, with Olivia
Hmm.
Joy Grace.
Hmm.
And I think it's still mind blowing to me because for me, it's a moment in time. I'm recording an episode, right? And I put it up and then I kind of let it go as well, in the sense of course, I love the whole marketing around it, but I let it go and I let people then watch it and consume it. And then I kind of don't, I mean, of course, I think about it, but it's not like I ruminate on it. So then
Hmm.
later, even sometimes weeks later, people can come and watch an old episode or whatever and comment on that and tell me how they are grateful and that it impacted them. That's been so cool and so mind blowing. So I'm still not used to that. I really appreciate every comment, every like, every share, every whatever, even hate comments. Honestly, I don't hate them. Like I'm just like, okay, you do you, boo. Like thanks for commenting. If
Yeah.
it's really crazy, I delete it, but rarely. Like yeah, but I also don't get that much hate. But like thank God. But I do appreciate every interaction with my content. I think it's cool. And if it triggers you, that's a good thing, right? Like it did something to you. So I think that's kind of art in a way.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's like, why did it trigger you? Maybe you should go and explore that. Like, if me saying that, God is within you, like, again, why is that such an issue? So, I love that, and I love that you started the podcast, because even Olivia was the first episode I did see from you on my feed or my algorithm, right? But going into your other content, I was like, wow, she talks just the energy you have and the clarity that you have when you speak. I'm like, I'm really into it. Now, I know you said on that episode that you're actually really into shamanic soul retrieval. So can you tell even me, because I don't really know much about it, what that is, and does it relate to manifestation in any way? Like, Yeah.
Yes, thank you for asking that. Wow, you've done your research. I feel like, yeah, I feel really good. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Yeah, so shamanic soul retrieval is my favorite form of shadow work. I know people will be like, oh my God, shadow work. Like, some people are triggered by this as well because they think it's different than manifestation, but it's the same thing. So for me, my healing journey has been the biggest blessing in my whole life. And discovering shamanic soul retrieval has been, for me, the biggest blessing in my life. I honestly don't know if I would still be alive without this. So it holds a dear place in my heart. Um, it's an ancient method. You can do it whatever. I'm very intuitive. There's many teachers who teach this method. I'm very intuitive. So at this point, I've been doing this for many years. I just kind of go with the flow in each session. But what it essentially is that when you get traumatized, and trauma can mean anything, right? Trauma can be something that's small to you, but might be not small to the child that is experiencing it. But trauma can also be, very heavy stuff that, we see on the news, but it can also be smaller things that we just dismiss. So I want to be careful in how I word this because I believe it's incredibly important to validate each emotion that you go through. And so on my journey, with the shamanic soul retrieval, basically is how it works is that you get triggered, right? Like, let's say you have an anxiety attack. That's
Hmm.
very, I think, easy for people to connect to, but it could be anything. It could be you getting angry at something. Let's say you're in a relationship and you get annoyed and really, really you seem to kind of overreact to the situation or something. And you're like, why am I reacting this way? It's absolutely valid. So in that moment, if I would have the time and I could remove myself from the situation, I would literally sit down in meditation, go into that feeling. Where is this feeling coming from? And I will connect it to a childhood memory and go into the childhood memory, feel the emotion, validate myself, validate my feelings, validate the inner child, what it went through. Even now as an adult, I can see, oh, that was just 10 minutes of unpleasantness. But for the child, by the way, the concept of time doesn't exist anyways. And children understand this deeply on a visceral level. Time is, never and eternal and now only. So, they have no concept of time. So 10 minutes for them can feel incredibly long, especially for infants, like, that's the kind of consciousness I'm talking about. But you go in basically into that, you validate the child. And once you feel a bit more resolve and a bit more calm, you then change the scene. So it's kind of like inner child work. I mean, that's how I do it, but I think there's many ways of doing this. So just everybody do your own research. And then I changed the memory to a point where it happens exactly what the child would have loved to happen. And I do this until I feel good. So this session can take 2 hours, it can take 30 minutes, it can take 15 minutes, it can take an hour. I don't care as long as my inner child feels good. And so I've done this over and over again, and I come out of these sessions, I'm not exaggerating, seeing more colors, having my energy more back in my body, because when we have trauma, part of our soul streams, this is why it calls shamanic soul retrieval, is because parts of your consciousness, the shamans believe and the ancient people believe, is that they are stuck in time and stuck in that moment of time, right? But time is only now. So what do? They're still there. Your 5-year-old self that was, I don't know, maybe you were bullied as a 6-year-old, whatever, is still in that situation. So you can go there and take that piece back, right? And integrate that memory and make something beautiful out of it. This is Neville Goddard's revision on a different level, right? On a deep meditative level, but it's the same thing. And then you will feel more whole because now you have resolve. Now that didn't happen to you. Actually, it really didn't. You literally time traveled. This is actually time travel. So it has many layers, but this is how I would explain it from my words. But like, again, everybody do your own research. It's a big thing. And obviously if you have incredibly like CPTSD and very, very heavy trauma, do it with someone. There's people who do shamanic soul retrieval. They will lead you through that process. I've also done this with teachers. So I've not only done this alone, but now I'm at a place in my life where I can do it alone all the time, like with myself. But it's been the biggest blessing. And I'm literally telling you, like, I come out of these healing sessions and the people in my life are changed. They don't remember it happening, or I just literally quantum shift into different, it's really fast because it satisfies the human mind, because we need resolve, right? I mean, we don't really need it, right? Like if you understand quantum shifting and the quantum reality of all of this, you don't need anything. So I don't want to say that you need to heal. It's not true either. But I am saying it's so much easier to work with your resistance than against it. But that's my personal opinion. And I know that every teacher teaches this differently. I believe it's so much easier, specifically for things that are just very painful and that you feel like you can't get over. It's okay. Let's just work with it. And I'm telling you, once you feel the emotion and once you go there and once you do it, it takes 10 minutes. You know, when you're like suppressing your anger, let's say, or your sadness because you're at work and you can't cry right now. Everybody has done that before, I think. I don't know. I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you finally sit with the sadness, you realize, oh, it's just been 5 minutes. I'm already over it. I just needed to cry it out. Right? Like this is an example. Crying is a release. Your body is releasing something. Working with the body for me has been a big thing. So, but I still pick and choose. Like sometimes I don't do shamanic soul retrieval if it doesn't feel as heavy to me. And I will just like quantum shift immediately because I don't really care about a situation that deeply, right? Like for example, we had like a Wi-Fi issue here. And I actually, something happened where the Wi-Fi kind of went out and then it was, so I live in Japan, right? And it was like right when the holidays started where they just don't have any service, and we called them but they were like, we can't do anything about it because you have to wait for a week until we start the service again. It was the first day of the holiday and I was like, oh my god. And then I was just like, wait, I'm god of my reality, dude. Like why am I panicking about this? It makes no sense. And then this is an example that I don't care about, that doesn't trigger me much. So I would just sit there and I would be present with myself and be like, no, actually, that didn't happen. It already resolved. Like the Wi-Fi already works. It does already work. And meanwhile, my partner is like calling my fiance. He's like calling these different, and they're all like, no, it's impossible. No, it's I believe he called them 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4 different people from the company told him it's impossible. You have to wait for a week. And he was like, it's impossible. You have to wait for a week. And I was like, no, I know it will work again. And he thinks I'm crazy. So he's just like, okay, whatever, girl. And I went into myself, right? And I was like, I know that it works again. It just works again. And then literally, I think an hour later or two, it worked again. All of a sudden, it just turned on again itself, which should have not been technically possible. I mean, I don't know how the technology works, okay, but apparently that was not possible. The next day, mind you, now we have Wi-Fi, everything works like normal. The next day, this person from the company comes and he's like a technological, like this is what this guy does. Okay, he knows Wi-Fi here. He knows how this works. He looks at it, he's like, I don't know why it works again. Like, what did you guys do? And my fiance is like, I don't know. Like, what? It just works again, right, Canem? And I'm like, yeah, it just worked again. Weird, you know? So that's an example of me not caring too much about something. And this is why when I will do revision or just demand or persist in the reality that I say is happening. But I always like pick and choose from all of these amazing spiritual teachings that we have, right? There's so much out there. Like honestly, don't limit yourself, guys. Like Neville Goddard is amazing, but he learned from Abdullah, right? And then also Joseph Murphy had the same teacher, I believe. So again, Joseph
Mm-hmm.
Murphy is more like affirmations. Neville is more visualization. Whatever fits you, whatever you can use both. Pick and choose, right?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely say what resonates with you keep, and then discard the rest. Because even religion, right? Like they're all pointing to some kind of truth that is basically saying that you're the creator of your reality. God's within you, right? They're just saying it in different terms, different language, different ways. So that's why, again, for me, Neville didn't click the first time I heard it. I was like, this, who's this old dude, talking about the Bible? Like, and Abraham Hicks was a better entry, point into that for me. And then once I start to understand, okay, you know, I can get on board with this, then my consciousness started to elevate, to expand, and I was able to soak everything up. But I love what you said about going within and doing the soul retrieval, because that is revision, you know what I mean? And that even reminds me of like EFT tapping, right? Because in EFT tapping, you're acknowledging, okay, like, yes, of course I was hurt, but this is the new story for me now. This is the new timeline that I've shifted to. And I've done that with arguments. I revised arguments, and I've had people like did that really happen? Like, I don't remember it that way. And even yeah, even I mean, science is showing that anyway, that your brain alters the memory anyway. So it definitely makes sense. And I was gonna ask you, like if you had any advice to give someone who I guess is struggling to heal themselves, but that's a beautiful way to do it right there. Do you have anything else that you would recommend if soul retrieval is something that's a little bit too heavy for them right now?
I mean, honestly, unconditional presence. Okay,
Hmm.
so I believe, right, all of the reasons we're doing these methods is to have a better life, right? We want to feel better.
Hmm.
So ultimately, I really do believe that we need relationship, we need humans, we need animals, we need plant life even, okay? So I would suggest if you have anyone that you trust, if you don't go for a therapist and just talk it out first, because talk therapy will not really heal you, but it will let you look at yourself in a different way. It will make you reflect and it will be a catalyst for change. So I really am also for, although I don't agree with everything that the mental health system is doing, talk therapy can be a good, easy way for people to kind of go into it. But what I would actually, more than that, suggest to you, if you have someone in your life who really loves you, I would say, hey, can you just sit down with me for 2 hours? I just want you to not judge me and just be like really unconditionally present with me. I know this might be embarrassing for some people, but honestly, life is weird. Just you don't know, right, what people are willing to do unless you ask for it. So my first thing would be just let someone listen to you and just not judge you. And if you have someone like that in your life, like that's amazing. And just tell them everything that you want to get out of your system. Like tell them maybe something that was traumatizing for you or something that hurt you, and let them validate you. Let them just listen without trying to fix anything yet. We can come to that step later, right? This is something that a lot of women I see in relationships with men have issues with this, because the masculine immediately wants to fix it, right? This is something that a lot of women feel disconnect with their own partners, but it's like, it's okay. That's their nature, right? Men, not all of them, but most men, they immediately want to fix something. So, and it's okay. That's the initiation that comes from the masculine. But I think women understand this way more viscerally. But I think just being present with something and just letting it be is actually the healing experience often. You
Yeah,
know, just someone listening and just someone not judging you, right? For
yeah.
whatever you're going through, or someone like who also went through religious trauma, for example, in your case, right? And be like, oh, I understand that. That's really hurtful. That's really shit, right? And
Hmm.
that, it's just enough sometimes to put something in us like back together. But I would really suggest, especially if you have intense trauma, whatever, like I would really suggest to do any type of healing method that you see fit. You know, some people go to the Amazon and they do the ayahuasca. It's basically the same thing. It's different, but shamanic soul retrieval kind of does a similar thing without the need of the plant medicine. So I do really believe in this because it worked so much for me. And honestly, I have healed I would say mental illness or mental symptoms that people tell you in society are unhealable. I have healed them. Like, I know it's possible. So whenever a health professional tells you something is impossible, they don't understand reality. Reality, everything is possible. It doesn't necessarily mean it's possible for you, because you might have blockages or maybe you can't persist in it, and it's okay. But in theory, and the way I understand reality and from my own experiences, anything is possible. You can literally levitate if you believe you can, if you have the focus to do so. Can everyone do that? No, because we have the limiting beliefs of we cannot levitate, right? But like everyone can be trained to do that. There's like people in India and in China, right? Like training little children, closing their eyes and training them to see out of the third eye, and they can see the room. They can know what's in front of them, literally. And children are so quick with this stuff. So anything is possible. So that's what I would say. I don't know. That was a tangent into a different but yeah.
No, no, it was completely beautiful, and I relate on so many levels. Like, especially what you said about men, not all men, but a lot of them wanting to be a fixer. Like I had my boyfriend, which I manifested. I didn't. I call him my SP, but he's technically like a general love experience. Like I just wanted, honestly, a partner that was also awake. For a long time, that was a desire of mine because I was outgrowing a lot as far as terms of my consciousness and my understanding on how reality worked. I oftentimes outgrew all of my partners. You know what I mean? They're very logical and stuck in, okay, this is what's possible, and try to put you know boxes on everything. And so when I manifested him, it was amazing. But the point I'm trying to make is there was a couple of days ago where sometimes we just feel overwhelmed, we feel tired, we feel stuck, and instead of me trying to fix and trying to be like, oh, it's okay, you're the creator of your own reality, like, I just sat with him and I was like, I hear you. Like, it's okay to feel whatever you got to feel. Like, I'm gonna be here no matter what. And I think that's more reassuring, that's more comforting than anything. And of course, like, that place of me trying to empower him comes from a place of love, but it might not be appropriate for the conversation or the situation, right? And so that's just something I've learned that has helped me, that it's okay to just let things have their own life cycle, right? Like, let your feelings, just notice your feelings, and don't try to fix them, don't try to correct them. Even when it comes to manifestation, just a lot of what I'm teaching now is just resting in awareness as God. Like, it's okay. Like, Justin, the character, is freaking out. He's wondering, how is it going to manifest this thing? But as I am, as God, I know my true power. I know that I am all possibilities. I'm all experiences. I'm all people, right? And so it's just resting in that awareness, and that's beautiful what you said, because sometimes, and not everyone, or it might not seem that everyone has that ability or that person to just sit with them. But when they do, and when you can just have someone see you and understand you, and not trying to prove a point, but just accept you for your feelings and your emotions, that's such a beautiful thing. And I love that you touched on that, because I'm sure there's someone who really needed to hear that right now.
Yeah, and honestly, that's really beautiful what you did for your partner, because see, we're doing all of this to get to this point anyways. You
Hmm.
don't want to manifest your perfect person so that they can never be present with you. No, you want that person to be present with you, whether you realize that right now or not. I really believe that's a subconscious, evolutionary, whatever it is, like human need that we have. You just want someone to embrace you. You just want someone to take you as you are, right? I mean, is there anyone who would disagree with this? I would wonder if that's, wow, then I'm confused. But this is what we all long for. So why not start that, right? Why not be that partner first? Or,
Yeah.
like, it's so beautiful. Like yesterday I had this is a private moment now, but like yesterday I came back from work, and I was actually just, I was okay. I was not sad or anything. I was just a bit more calmer than usual, because I'm very, like, especially with my partner, I'm like, my inner child comes out. I'm very playful, and he knows that about me. So we live together, right? So he immediately saw the shift in my energy, and he was like, "What's going on today?" And I was like, "Nothing. I'm just more calm today." Like, I don't know. And it was true. I wasn't lying. I wasn't gaslighting him. I was just chilling. But immediately he tuned into me, and immediately he was worried, and immediately he wanted to know if I'm okay. That's love to me. That's someone who really cares. And he's looking at me, and he's making sure, and he was asking for a long time, okay, if I'm okay. And everything was okay. It was just a tiny shift in my energy. I wouldn't even say it was that crazy. For him, it was, right, because he knows me. He really sees me. That's what we're all longing for, right? And by the way, that's what God is. Like, that's what source energy is. Like, source energy will not judge you for any emotion. That's why you can even have the emotion just freely, because it's just meant to be here. We're just meant to be and exist. And there's no judgment in that. And if you can embody that in that I amness, as you say, or in that, God state, in that source energy, I mean, that's so beautiful. And you can be that change, right? Be the change, whatever, be the change you want to see in the world, or whatever that quote is, right? But it's so true. It's how we vote in the world. You put, every time you do something, every time you show kindness, every time you, say yes or no to something, you vote for a specific world. And so yeah, I guess that's what we're all doing anyways when we manifest an SP, because we want a relationship that makes us feel good. But, it doesn't necessarily always feel good if you're like, oh, this thing happened, and your partner is like immediately like, well, it's because you manifested that, and that's a negative, like, okay, dude, like I get it, like can you just sit with me? Like, and that's the thing, right? I think it's difficult sometimes for people to just sit with these two realities at once. But we have to kind of evolve our consciousness to be able to see that, yes, Neville Goddard's teachings are absolutely true and they work and they are very beautiful, right? And they can set us free. And at the same time, also have the ability to look at the other side of that and be like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not okay to sit with someone, right? Or sit with yourself when you're going through these emotions. I mean, honestly, guys, right? We have to be discerning and we have to be, I think, emotionally intelligent enough to also understand that we are our own teacher. Like, even though I appreciate all these teachers, I'm so incredibly grateful for all of these different teachings that I have, you know, got, and so much knowledge I got out of these. Even Joe Dispenza or other, neuroscientists even who teach this stuff too. Like my last episode actually that I just uploaded was with a former neuroscientist who died and then she had an awakening and now she does like quantum shifting twin flame kind of relationship coaching. Super cool and super grateful for all of that. But at the end of the day, I have to sit with myself and I have to decide in my own heart who I am, what rings true, what feels good. And to me, like everything that feels good, genuinely feels pure and good and just true, comes directly from source, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I definitely understand what you're saying there. Because, I mean, not, I mean, to be honest, not everything Neville says I 100% agree with. I do think, to be honest, personally, Jesus was a real person, but I do think there is Christ consciousness. You know what I mean? There is that that God energy within us all, and I love what you said about that, like about just again not needing to be the fixer, but just having humility and being that awareness. Like that's beautiful that your partner could shift your vibration, that subtle shift in your vibration, but he knows you well enough, or I'm assuming but yeah, he knows you well enough that you know he, he can sense those little things within you, that that difference of energy, but then not judge you for it, not try to fix it. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people, like I said, they have good intentions when it comes to that, but like God's just chilling. Like he's like, oh, like Justin's over here spiraling, but I love him anyway. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
that's the humility, I think, in the law of assumption. I wish I would see more of. You know what I mean? Like there's sometimes these phrases are tossed around like circumstances don't matter, and I made videos about this where that can feel very disheartening. When someone tells you that your circumstances don't matter, but I think they're doing it from a place of that, you can transcend your circumstances is really what they're trying to say. But at the same time, we need to make room for empathy and for understanding, because that's what's really going to help people in those moments. Not saying, not giving Bible verses, you know what I mean, or giving lectures, or giving all these all this jargon, right? It's really just being compassionate. And I love that, you touched on that. Do you think, like, I want to go a little bit deeper into the whole free will thing, because this is something that, and like the whole everyone is you pushed out um terminology that Neville uses, because this is something I kind of struggle with for a while. I had, I wouldn't say I had one huge spiritual awakening. It was kind of like layers for me, like an onion being peeled back. I had a very small spiritual awakening, but in 2024, I had almost what I would call like a dark night of the soul experience, because I kind of got too deep into, it wasn't just Neville, but it was I can't remember who else it was, but very very, in non-duality, it's basically saying that you're the only thinker, you're the only observer. So for a while I was like, okay, well, am I the only like person that exists? Like, are all these people robots and puppets? And to me, that was a very isolating feeling, believing that. But at the deep of my spirit and my core, there was something that was just like, they're made of the same substance, the same energy you are. So as real as you are, that's as real as they are, right? And so I don't really subscribe personally. I don't subscribe to the whole belief that um no one has free will, or that, you know, everyone's a puppet, everyone's a robot. You know what I mean? I think we are all kind of like in our own reality bubble. And so, for instance, like me and you doing this episode, right? We're kind of our realities at this moment are kind of intersecting. But as soon as we go on without our day, it's like they kind of converge again, and they go off and do their own thing. So what's your perspective on free will and the mirror effect of reality?
Yeah, this is such an important question, and what you went through there, I have also went through many years ago. Yeah, it is. Okay, so all of these teachings have to be grounded, right? These teachings, right? They're not meant to be consumed, actually, I believe, by people who are not deeply grounded in this physical reality. And this is where it can actually be harmful to the psyche to go too deep into these very metaphysical, very out, not tethered in reality kind of quantum realities. Like, so I did go through a very similar thing there that you went through. So I absolutely understand it. They call it solipsism, right? It's a
Hmm.
belief system, even in philosophy, where people think maybe I'm the only one, or whatever that thinks. Okay, so there's like two things to that. First of all, no, people are not robots, and people are not, no, like people are real. Okay, people are real, guys. This is like, this is kind of annoying to me as well in the laws of assumption community. It's like it's a too narrow viewpoint on this truth that everything is one on the highest level. We're talking highest level, we're talking like, I think source is maybe in the 12th or 13th dimension of the consciousness of all being just one point of consciousness. But we are right now in the third dimension, quite, in this physical reality, experiencing other people that are also made out of the same consciousness, and we are experiencing them as other, when in reality we are all one. But that does not mean that the people in your life do not have free will. And it does not mean that they are less real because they shift and react to your consciousness. I would really look at it more as in like, source is an ocean, right? An ocean of energy where everything is in it, even demonic energies, and even the table that you're sitting at, right? I think you're sitting at a table. I don't know if you're really sitting at it. And
A desk,
but
but yeah.
see, that's yeah. So that's like all of source consciousness is all subjective realities accumulated. And so, but we are kind of like a strand, almost like a river, or like something that comes out of source consciousness and is focused into the physical right now. So yes, you are source, and at the same time, the other person in front of you is also source, but at the same time, you are one, and you are at the same time, you aren't in this very moment, because we are experiencing the other source fractal of consciousness as other. Okay. And so the loneliness, the feeling of loneliness and of I'm all alone kind of thing, is actually an illusion, because it puts you in fear. Of course, fear is always on the highest level an illusion, because it comes from separation, but it actually is all oneness, and there is no other but on the highest level. So this is where, okay, I don't know how to really explain this so that people understand what I'm trying to say, right? It's difficult to put this into words because it's really high level, like, metaphysical concept. But when people say other people don't have free will, that's not true. I don't believe that. Free will is an absolute of the universe, and free will, everything has free will. But because the reason why you can manifest an SP, and the reason why you can even make them say exactly what you want them to say, that works, I know it works, I've done it before, I know that works, is because they are not disconnected from you. And there are billions and billions and billions of parallel realities where what you want them to say or do already exists. And so you shift your consciousness, your awareness, into a parallel reality where that version of them exists. They are still real. They still have emotions, feelings, and their own consciousness and their own POV. Whether that's exactly what you're experiencing, no, because you have obviously your filter of your own Justin, like Justin's reality, right? Your reality is real and is very much real and human and a spiritual experience. Janem's reality is very much real and a whole, experience and spiritual and physical experience. But when we're sitting in the same room and we're talking to each other, even though I think we are probably experiencing a similar thing, we're not experiencing necessarily the exact same thing. And I don't think we are meant to fully understand this mentally anyways, how it works, because I think it is such an outside of the brain concept, because this is like really high, like we cannot even imagine billion. The number billion makes no sense in my brain, right? It makes no sense. Like even when I think many, I think of 10 or something, right? Like, but we are constantly shifting through an ocean of realities, and every outcome out there already exists, and people already are doing and experiencing this, and other souls are being here and there. I don't know. Is it really the person that he was yesterday? Is he not? Who cares? We cannot really know all of and grasp all of these concepts. But no, absolutely, it's not true that other people are not real or anything like that. Like that's actually really harmful, and that's actually a form of spiritual bypassing to think that, because it makes you people who are really wanting to control, because in their childhood, okay, now this is actually where OCD and these forms of OCD and these intrusive thoughts of what you just described in your dark night of the soul are coming from a childhood that was highly out of control, right? Because children have no control, because their parents literally decide everything for them, which at one point they have to, right? Because an infant cannot tell you what color it likes, right? But so we come out of these childhoods where we had no control of our reality. And now as an adult, we have a wound in us that makes us want to control others and makes us want to control our reality so much that we hang on to these, these systems and these ideas and these mental things of like, no, but if this person says this thing, then I will finally feel good, and if they do this, then I think it's a form of OCD actually, and a form of without the compulsion, but the obsessive thought, the O, right? The pure O, I think they call it in psychology. But holding on to this one thing, like it's because you've never felt safe, with the people around you, making you feel it's okay. Like even if we are right now deciding something for you, you're still safe. Like that feeling many people didn't have in childhood. And I think that's actually where that comes from. Just now as my observation, as like a healer, or, having gone through similar things myself. So I understand the need for control, so I understand where people who feel very powerless, it makes them feel good to think that they are the only one in control in the whole wide world. But if you really understand that, as you did, then, that thought process, it then makes you feel scared, because you realize, wait, am I now what? Like, am I the only one that exists? It's like everything. Or you go into this like feeling responsible for everything in the world. Oh, I'm the reason now that there's a genocide happening in that. Like, no, guys, no. This is very high concept, metaphysical concepts that most people just do not get. And it's okay. And none of us get it physically, really, in our brains anyways. But that's not how it works. That's my belief, and I think it's incredibly complex. And this is why we're not really meant to understand it. I think I'm saying the same thing now over and over again, but I want to make people feel safe, like you are safe. It's okay. You do have control over your reality. That doesn't mean you are responsible for everything that is happening. And yes, you can still manifest an SP and make them say and do whatever you want. But that doesn't mean that they are not consenting to that with their own free will, because you're actually shifting, what I believe, into a parallel reality where they are actually wanting to do that. So that's how I kind of explain that, but who knows, right? We are not right now in the 13th or 12th dimension of source consciousness where we see all of these things happening and where we fully can make sense of it. So I think actually too deep thinking into this is also harmful. But as I said earlier, in case anyone needed to hear this, you are safe. And like, if you struggle from these kinds of, obsessive thoughts, because that's what it is, it's an intrusive thought that makes you feel unsafe, it's okay. And it probably comes from your childhood that you weren't safe. But so this is also where I think Neville Goddard said this, but the mystic navigates the thing that a mentally ill person gets lost in, or something, or a schizophrenic gets lost in. I don't know how he said that, or if that even was Neville. Sorry if I completely messed that up. But that's something that's happening a lot. Like there's a I think it's in the, is it in the South American native spiritual teachings where it's like, don't look up in the sky if you aren't fully grounded on the ground, where you are right now. Be very grounded in your physical experience as a human, and then you can look up in the sky and look at these concepts that are very untethered and have often nothing to do with our physical experience as a human. So I think the more you evolve, sorry, I've been talking for so long, the more you evolve on your consciousness awareness journey, the more you have to ground yourself in this physical experience. Because ultimately, you washing the dishes is the reason you're alive. Being in that moment, Zen Buddhism, right? In Zen, we call it like, in Japan, like it's like this, and everything is meditation, So chop wood, carry water, and then after your awakening, you still chop wood and carry water, but it has a completely different meaning. So being fully embodied in your physical reality, it's absolutely beautiful, and that's what we're here to do. And at the same time, as someone like yourself and like me, we are these people who want to understand these concepts. We want to teach these concepts. We want to set people free. That's why we're doing this. But we have to also then be grounded and understand this is the reality. You feel sad right now. I understand that. I'm going to be here with you, and I'm going to hold you through the sadness. And I know it's not all of you. And at the same time, yes, you are God. And yes, you are this beautiful source consciousness energy that's experiencing Justin, that is more than Justin is. But that doesn't mean push Justin away. Like, this is an issue I have with actually always with the spiritual community. It's like this ego thing. Ego is just you. It's you seeing yourself as separate. But it's also true. You are Justin. You are this human. You are having this experience. Can we acknowledge that? Yes. Can we love that? Yes, that's why you're here. And then also understand you are so much more than that. Set yourself free and blah, 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 right? Oh my God, this was way too, sorry for this long answer of, yeah.
No, that's so beautiful, and I love exactly how you put that. Because I would have needed to hear that 2 years ago, and thankfully, that spiritual depression I was in only lasted for a little bit, but that's exactly what I needed to hear, because I think you know you're completely right with the whole ego thing. Like our ego is only here to honestly keep us safe, and to keep us in the familiar, but in a way that's just going that's just trying to help us. You know what I mean? And I completely agree with what you say about that quote. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Because I have the understanding that life doesn't have one inherent meaning, but that doesn't make it meaningless. Whatever meaning you give it is whatever meaning that resonates with you is the meaning that it's supposed to be, and it's that it's supposed to have, right? And so I love that you said that. And Neville even says, and I say this a lot in my lectures and my videos, but it kind of dissolves all the worry that people have when he says that, you know it's the Bible verse, me and my Father are one, but my Father is greater than I, right? and
Yes.
and it's meaning that you don't have to get rid of the character. You don't have to get rid of Janum and Justin, right? But they can both coexist together. And when you find that sweet spot almost of letting them exist together and letting them, you know, um, work with one another, then that's when you can just drop the fear and the separation, and really know yourself as as source, right? Because you came here anyway to have a human experience. I think Bashar even says that a part of yourself is still in non-physical, right? So
Yeah.
you're still in that higher dimension, but you're also here in the third dimension. So I don't, like you said, I don't necessarily subscribe to the belief that we need to get rid of our ego. It's like, come on, man. Like, how does that look
What?
like in everyday life? You know what I mean? Like, how you
Yeah.
to me, there needs to be a balance of spirituality and groundedness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like getting rid of the ego is to kill yourself. I mean, sorry to be like very
Yeah.
graphic now, but if you want to get rid of your ego, you might end your life, because then you're back in the oneness, awareness, but you're still right now, while you're in the body, you are still in oneness and awareness.
Hmm.
See, like getting rid of the ego is an absolutely self-hating statement. Like this is like really high level like spirituality. I don't know if like people will like really understand this, what this means, but You came here to be Justin. Why would you get rid of it now? This is the
Yeah.
reason why you came here, to have this experience. And it's not just that like a part of you is in like source consciousness and is in this like spiritual awareness. It's most of you, actually. I don't know what
Mhm.
number, but like maybe 99% of you is in spiritual consciousness, and just this tiny portion of you is focused here on this physical awareness. But this is where your awareness lies, and this is where your focus is. So this is what you're experiencing. And it's such a difficult school, right? Like, some people say, yeah, like life is a prison planet, like Earth is a prison planet. No, it's a high level, intense school, and like it's not for the faint hearted. It's a very difficult planet. It's difficult to be incarnated into this world, but we chose that experience. But of course, people who feel completely out of control, it's going to feel like a prison planet to them, of course. And I will not say that that's not true for them. It might be. But see, looking at that and being like, you came here to master Justin. You didn't come here to lose Justin, but you did come here to maybe remember that you're not just only Justin. So yeah, I love that quote that you
Yeah.
shared from the Bible, I think. Yeah, the me and my father are one, but my father is greater than I am. Beautiful. I remember that one also distinctly.
Yeah. What does I love, like, how you expanded on that too. Do you have I know you do meditation a lot and you do the soul retrievals and stuff, but do you have anything else? Like, what does your spiritual routine look like for you?
Yeah, yeah, so I don't really have like a necessarily a routine, except for I do meditate every night before bed and then drift into sleep while sleeping. So I guess you could call it as sets, state akin to sleep,
Hmm.
but it's not necessarily visualization that I do. I kind of connect to other entities sometimes. I connect to ETs, high dimensional ETs, high dimensional angelic beings, high dimensional beings that I can learn from. I do sometimes do astral projection when I'm capable to that. I'm not always capable because I'm also very tethered to this body. But I can sometimes do that, go out of body and learn things. I do love channeling sessions where I call it channeling. I think people call it remote viewing. It depends on how you want to interpret what I'm going to say, but I like sitting down, like in the waking state, like this, and then being like, okay, today I want to channel. What can I say so people don't think I'm crazy? They will still think whatever they want. Okay, like I can channel like mermaids, right? Like, because I want to know if they're real or not. Like, I have no particular attachment to that idea. So I'm like, okay, let me actually sit down. And then I do the remote viewing or the meditation. I go into it and I connect with these beings, and I realize, oh, damn, they're actually very real. And there's many, many ways of, whatever. That was a thing that I did lately because I was interested in mermaids. Or what I did lately, this is going to be a bit dark, but the whole thing that came out with the Epstein files. So I don't really have like a specific routine, I would say, but I kind of love meditation. I love going into these concepts. So what I did lately was I actually projected my consciousness into the children that are being harmed in the process of whatever is going on. Been for many, many years, for I think for hundreds of years or thousands of years, children and people have been harmed. Men, women, children, boys, girls, animals have been harmed in these ritual abuse situations. And so, for example, what I did the other day was I went into meditation, projected my consciousness, I guess meditated into, put my consciousness there. And instead of taking on the negativity, or I wasn't really interested in what was happening because I already know what's happening, I was interested in helping the souls lost kind of in that realm, I would say, to kind of guide them back to source and help them be like a beacon and help them kind of like, so I did some, I guess you could say, spiritual work there, healer, I guess, light worker kind of work. I don't really love the word light worker because I feel like it's saying that the darkness is bad, and I don't even adhere to that necessarily. But see, I do this, so I did that, and then I helped them, go back to source and help them get unstuck in wherever they were, because when you're in a high traumatic situation, you kind of get lost in that I guess moment or consciousness. And so I kind of untethered them and helped them. Like, I honestly don't have any specific routine, I would say, except for meditation. I do obviously the shamanic soul retrieval. I do visualization whenever I feel like it. I do telepathy things that I like doing, like, like very Neville style, like phone kind of thing, but not, what's it called, the phone technique, but not really like more like I guess, yeah, I guess it's like the phone technique. If I want to hear someone say something to me, if I want to get news, if I want to, you know, affirmations, I love affirmations, specifically going to sleep or waking up immediately. I'm going to be like, it's going to be an amazing day. Today is an amazing day, or like, why am I so beautiful? Like in the mirror, like even when I don't feel like it, the question is, putting it into a question makes your brain wonder, and it helps all these kinds of things. But yeah, lately I've been doing a
Yeah,
lot of
ask
spiritual work
formations.
into ask formations, exactly. But yeah, I've been
Yeah.
doing a lot of spiritual work around finding out the truth about the prison planet system, or the school, why we are kind of stuck in this, why some people feel stuck on this planet, and then helping some, victims in that whole thing. So it depends on what I feel drawn to. But yeah, that's kind of, was that an answer? Sorry
Yeah,
if I
no,
went
that
into.
that was awesome, and I love that you, um I mean, that's probably one of the greatest things you could do going into this work is, like, literally transporting your consciousness even to world leaders, and if we're all one, then why wouldn't you be able to go into someone else's consciousness and revise it, or see how you would want it to see it as for the betterment of humanity. And I bought myself some dowsing rods. I seen some girl on TikTok use them, and then actually I was like, you know what, those are so cool. I want to try them out. So I use those to talk to loved ones who have passed and spirit guides, and I know it's all me anyway. So it's like, or a form of consciousness. So it doesn't, in the law of assumption community, it's like, well, nothing has power outside of you. Okay, that might be true, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to help me, or it's not going to give me a different perspective that maybe this character is struggling to see, right? And I love how you put that. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but you can talk to loved ones. Like again,
Yeah.
like the law of assumption, right? It really, really doesn't. People really don't understand what they mean, what it really means that everything is one. It's on the highest level it is, but see
Yeah.
how that can be very, like, making something. I don't know how it's in English, how you would say this, but when you say that to someone, it's very diminishing and very mean
Hmm.
of their experience. And
Yeah.
there are so many levels to reality. There are angelic beings and demonic beings and, whatever, dragon beings or other entities and ETs. All of that is real on all
Hmm.
dimensions. And still, on the highest level, we are one. But you can talk to dead loved ones because they're still there
Yeah.
and they are still
Yeah.
them, most of them, not all the
Y-
time. I mean, they can obviously
yeah.
move on to other consciousness, but that's all of that is real. I love that you do that. I can do that too. I do sometimes channel dead loved ones as well and get even guidance from them. Lately, less so. But when my grandfather passed, who I've been very close to, he's been helping me a lot, or my dead grandmother as well. When I had the dark night of the soul, she was one of my spirit guides actually, who helped me navigate that whole process. So I think it's really beautiful. I do, for example, tarot card readings, um,
Yeah.
as well, for myself, for loved ones. I also will offer that again as a service soon. So yeah, anyone
That's
who's listening
awesome.
to this, if you want a free reading, actually, because right now I'm just doing it for testimonials. If you want a free 30-minute reading, comment free reading, and I'll give you a free divination reading. And I don't do it to predict any future stuff because it's in your hands how your future will turn out to be. But I do like it to read energy and help you, guide you more back to your heart. That's kind of how I do um, tarot or divination. So I love the
That's
dowsing rods. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, Janine. And I also have I got some tarot cards a couple months ago. I do them with my boyfriend sometimes, and I'm just like, okay, I'll pick three cards, and I kind of feel around them, like I gotta look up the book and see what the meaning is. But yeah, it's definitely, it's all speaking to the same thing again. Like, yeah, I know there have been times where my grandma who transitioned, she's came in my dreams and told me things that have actually, transpired and passed in this reality, told me diagnosis before the doctors did, and kind of just soothes me in a lot of ways. And so, your loved ones are very much still here, and always with you and always present, because we can never be disconnected. It's just the illusion of disconnection and that experience of separation. I'm gonna wrap up soon, but I just want to ask you a few more questions. When obviously we're having a human experience, so we're going to have moments where doubt creeps up, and say we're manifesting something, but the 3D or physical reality doesn't seem to be conforming, or it shows you the opposite, right? Do you have a specific way that you like to ground yourself back to your source energy, or your I amness, like when you're seeing the opposite in your reality?
Yes, I mean, it depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm really frustrated, right? I have these moments too. It's not like I'm this perfect being. Like, even though I understand and I've
Hmm.
felt a lot of these concepts myself, I still go through the struggles of a human, right? So, yeah, sometimes it depends. Like, I can be frustrated, I can be angry, and I can be like, no, I'm persisting that this is whatever. Like, and it works sometimes, right? But sometimes I feel like with very big things, that seem big to me. It's not really big, but what that seem big to me and that feel impossible for me. I just kind of like to look at that. And then when I have time, sit with myself and be like, okay, what's my limiting belief here? Like, maybe even I write it down sometimes. My limiting belief, like, I believe I cannot do this. Okay, what's the deeper layer? Why do I believe I cannot do this? Well, I don't think I'm special enough. Well, why do I not believe I'm special? I go really deep in that, right? And then I'm like, okay, the core fear, the core limiting belief is this thing. And then I kind of realized, oh, it's a childhood thing again, as it is for most people always. More than a past life or whatever, it's actually childhood often that just connects us to all of this blockages and, I guess, resistances that we have. So I like to look at the resistance, point it out, and then either do a healing session on it, or do a meditation on it, or mentally even sometimes get myself out of limiting belief. I did that yesterday, actually. I had a limiting belief and I wrote it down, and I just every contradicting thing. So let's say, as an example, my limiting belief could be, um, I feel ugly. Okay, that's an example. Okay. And then I can write down all of the proof that I have that the opposite is true. Like, no, actually, this day I felt really beautiful. This day, my mom told me that about my beauty, or this person on the street that I don't know told me that about how I look like. And actually, beauty is not, everybody decides what beauty is, anyways. And so, whatever, like, you can mentally work yourself through a limiting belief, which is really cool. Um, so, yeah, that's, I guess, what I would say. But I do that I am thing sometimes too, where I kind of just like see myself as the observer and kind of see that, okay, what I'm experiencing now is that, but also I'm more than that. It depends on the mood. I don't ever like to like force myself to do anything because it doesn't
Yeah.
feel good.
Yeah, whatever feels natural, whatever comes up in that moment. I definitely, yeah, agree with that. Do you have any advice you would give, I guess, your past self, before you discovered this work, or before your awakening, even before you got into Neville? What would you say to her?
Nothing is wrong with you, and just be yourself. That's what I
Mm,
would say.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because
same.
now, yeah, go on. Yeah.
I, 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 for so long I was trying to change myself for other people. It was almost this underlying belief, even in my family. Like, everyone in my family was almost like a people pleaser in a way. So I always felt like the need to change myself for people. And when I really started working on my self concept and just loving myself for who I am, and knowing that, you know, either way, like, even after my awakening, like, we're gonna shift in and out of different states of consciousness and levels of consciousness, and sometimes it's gonna be very easy for us to accept, okay, I'm the creator of my reality, and other times we drop back into that separation consciousness, and it's okay. We don't have to beat ourselves up, and I think a lot of people do that, but it's just the ebb and flow of life, you know what I mean? And again, I think suffering begins and ends in the mind, right? So when we going back to the whole, um the dark night of the soul, a lot of that suffering was the need to understand reality, how it worked, and when you just let go of that and you just be in the present moment, a lot of that just dissolves anyway. And so I love that you said that.
Yeah. And, honestly, another reason why I say that is also because I realize the older I get, or the more life passes, I guess, whatever you want to call it, the more I realize that the ultimate gift of life is to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And fully embodying myself, who I am, is one of the hardest things I've gone through in my life. It's difficult because obviously people can judge you and they can make you out to be, or society expects you to be this and that and whatever. But really becoming more and more myself, and is kind of becoming more and more my child self as well, which is funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like children already are just who they are when they're not being pushed to be something, So I kind of love discovering who I was anyways, and just kind of, I think that's a lot of what adulting is. Like, I mean, not adulting, but in adulthood, finding back healing or anything, or becoming the better version of yourself, is actually becoming who you were all along as a child,
Yeah.
right? You came here with a specific mission in mind, with the specific gifts that you have and interests, and just letting that be is so beautiful. That's
Yeah.
ultimately badass, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of times in this work we get sucked up in trying to become a different version or a better version, but it's sometimes it's just about remembering who you always were, you know? And I love what you said about, how kids are naturally like that. And I think it's just because too they're so fresh from the other side or from non-physical. It's like they have all those qualities to them that we are trained out of in a way, you know what I mean? The more we have this experience of being human. So I love that. And last two questions. Jenna, do you or how do you see yourself how do you see your life unfolding this next year? Are there any goals or desires you wish to materialize in the physical?
Oh my God, I love this question so much. The fire horse and everything that's happening. The new year actually starts in 3 days, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
17th of February. I feel it so much. So yeah, again, becoming more who I really am, really freeing myself from the programming of society, of, all of these things that we think we have to do. I don't want to name now everything, but freeing myself from that, and also letting myself really pursue more of my creative gifts and creative interests in all forms. So podcasting, and also like the divination kind of services that I want to do more of. And also just, I have some project coming up with a friend of mine, where we want to just creatively express ourselves in a specific way. So let's see. Hopefully, I'll be able to share that soon. And anything that my heart calls to me, my heart calls me to, I want to do more of. So that's my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I intend nothing but success and for you to prosper in every way because
Thank you.
again, just the work that you're doing is going to change so many people's lives. And I felt
Thank
called to, like I said in the email, I feel very called right now to not only talk about manifestation and my perspective on it, but also there's when you see someone else's, perspective and you get how they kind of interpret everything and it sometimes the it's more nuanced, you know what I mean? Like it gives you an additional layer, additional perspective that maybe I can't portray in the way that Justin speaks, but maybe you can, you know what I mean? So I feel very called to connect with people in this way, and I'm just very, honored and happy to have you on my channel. And
thank
where
you.
can yeah, you're welcome. Where can people connect with you to find out more about you? I know you're on YouTube obviously, but anywhere else?
Yeah, so on YouTube, the Kotodama podcast, and on Instagram as well, the Kotodama podcast. I think that's it for now. Yeah, let's see where I will be. I'm currently in the process of building my website, so it's not online yet, but hopefully soon. Yeah, just YouTube is my main thing. So if you guys are interested in these types of conversations, as I have right now with Justin, that's kind of what I do on my channel, where I interview people or I ask people all of these questions. So yeah, feel free to check that out. And thank you so much, Justin, for inviting me. This was so cool. You're such a also nuanced and interesting and intelligent person. And I love the questions that you asked. Wow, that was really good and
Yeah,
well thought out.
I spent like a day and a half. I was like, I'm not gonna ask no basic bitch questions.
Yes.
Like, like I was like asking my boyfriend. I was like, what else do you think I should ask her? Like he's like, just be yourself. I was like, okay, you're right.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you're yourself. That's so cool. Yeah. So thank you. And
Yeah,
also what you're doing. I also saw some of your videos. Very, very cool. And Yeah, I think connecting it to your own experience is, I think, what I saw you do in some of your videos is exactly what people are needing. They need different
Yeah,
perspectives and inspiration, and that's really, really
yeah,
powerful. So
yeah.
thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.